When we talk about changing our life, what we really want to say is I want to change the way in which I'm viewing life at the present moment, aka my perspective, aka my frame of reference. And what we hope that will do for us is by changing how we're viewing life, changing what we're getting out of life, we will ultimately feel better as a result. Because right now, if you're watching this video and you want to make some changes, you want to, take your life to that next level, right? You feel that you have to change some things about how you're being. So when we talk about ultimately changing our frame of reference, changing our perspective on the way that we see the life going on around us, and maybe shift and focus more on the opportunities that's available to us, and shift and focus on, what does bring us joy and gratitude and love and fulfillment out of our lives, then ultimately we start to feel better. And once we start to feel better, we start taking better actions, and then our life improves as the result of better actions. So the question is, why a lot of times when we go to make these changes in our lives, when we have the infamous New Year's resolutions of, hey, I'm gonna start hitting the gym this year, or hey, I'm gonna start really going hard and working on my business, or hey, I'm gonna really tap in and start focusing and building my YouTube channel. Why, when we make those declarations, a couple weeks later, a month and a half, whatever duration of time later, we end up stopping and going back on those commitments? Well, to understand why we stop and why we go back to those commitments, we first need to understand how our psychology is programmed, how our brain works. Because the brain is the most powerful tool on this planet. We talk about computers, we talk about phones, we talk about satellites and bombs, but the human brain is what created all of those things. And the way that the brain works is whatever we put inside of it and program it to seek, that's what it will seek. Now, we have things that we consciously program it with, and then we also have things that have been programmed since birth through our genetics. Call it God or whatever. An environment shaped it to, one, seek survival, and two, seek reproduction, so reproducing. And for us to survive and reproduce, we have to have certain triggers or mechanisms inside of our brain that pulls us closer or further to those goals. And what that trigger or mechanism is pain and pleasure. So we go towards events that are pleasurable and away from events that are painful. Now, what does this have to do with New Year's resolutions, changing the way that we see the world, and ultimately getting better results in your life? Well, now that we understand that pain and pleasure is what is going to ultimately dictate our actions, now we can ask ourselves, why might we be experiencing more pleasure from staying in the same spot, staying broke, staying fat, staying unhappy, staying sick? Why would we be okay with staying in that same spot instead of getting better results in our life? Well, it goes back to the first principle of seeking survival and reproduction. In order to survive, we need to have things be predictable. For things to be predictable, they can't change very much. Back in the day, if we changed our environment too much or had different things going on where we separated ourselves from the tribe, that would mean that we'll get kicked out of the tribe and we'll ultimately die. So we have these mechanisms in our brain that are programming us away from death. We don't want to die. But what we don't realize, what the brain doesn't realize, what that part of the brain doesn't realize is programmed so deep in our unconscious, is that in the society that we live in today, changes don't equal death. And if we consciously choose the right changes, they can even equal more life. So while our brain is trying to keep us safe and away from changes, it's ultimately holding us back from the true power and true experience of life that we can have. So in order to really make these changes in our life, we have to switch our identity from seeking pleasure of the things of the past and consciously saying that, hey, I'm gonna seek pleasure from things that more so align with my future. For example, previously, if you struggle with weight, right, and working out and being healthy, You may say, man, I gotta give up the chocolate cakes. I'll get pleasure from the chocolate cakes. It's gonna be painful for me to put down the chocolate cakes. Dang, I gotta eat fruits and veggies. I don't really like fruits and veggies. They don't taste that good. They're painful for me to eat my fruits and veggies. It's more pleasurable to eat the chocolate cake. So therefore, you could set the intention in the beginning of the year and say, hey, I'm gonna get healthy. But until you change from the person that doesn't get pleasure from chocolate cakes and does get pleasure from fruits and veggies, you will never fully shift into the healthy lifestyle. So it's important to know that as you're making changes in your life, as you continuously improve, as you continuously become the best version of yourself, you're going to ultimately experience uncomfortable emotions. And in those uncomfortable moments, we need to just recognize that this uncomfortability is due from an old limiting belief that's not serving us. When we have the choice in the stomach at the grocery store to say, do I get the chocolate cake or the fruit? And that uncomfortability comes up knowing that you should grab the fruit. And then you go back and get to the comfort, the pleasure of, let me just go to my normal old habit of the chocolate cake. And then after you eat the chocolate cake, you feel ashamed. You mad that you ate it, and then you just repeat the cycle. You feel ashamed, man, I'm done with this. You get the pleasure from saying I'm done with it. You think that's progress. Then you go, and then you have the same decision at the store again, and then you get the chocolate cake again. Ultimately, because you're so focused on the pain of not getting the chocolate cake and the pleasure of what you would get from the chocolate cake. But I'm saying that it was a bee over by me, but I'm saying that if in that moment you start to focus on the pleasure of being healthy, the pleasure of feeling more energy, the pleasure of hitting your goals, the pleasure of having that body, the pleasure of the benefits of becoming a healthier individual, or insert any belief or goal here, whether it's the pleasure of making more money, or the pleasure of taking more trips, or the pleasure of whatever. Focus on what you will get out of doing the right thing instead of the pain of changing, and think more so about the pain of staying the same. Because that's ultimately, again, what we have to do is we have to change. We have to change into a different person. We have to change our identity, and that's going to be uncomfortable. But if we start focusing more on the pain of staying the same, the pain of still getting the same results in our life, the pain of having another failure like the one we had before, the pain of another year you're still in the same situation because you refuse to go through the uncomfortability. Now, it's going to take work, and ultimately, I don't recommend you try to fight actions with actions all the time. And what I mean by that is, I don't think that you should just willpower it out. I don't think that you should just, every time, only when you go to the grocery store, you just have to make these decisions. Because a lot of times we're going to go back into unconscious patterns and unconscious habits. But what you can do is you can deliberately make it a practice to focus on these things every day. So let's say that you only go to the store once a week, and you have this decision to make every once a week. You're probably going to fall back into the old habits because you've had, however long you've been alive, stuck in these habits. Most of the time we've been programmed since youth. So you may be in the grocery store and say, 10 years of unconsciously grabbing the honey buns. You unconsciously grabbing the honey buns for 10 years straight. And now before you grab the honey buns, you got to every time consciously say, oh, I'm a healthy person now. Honey buns will make me fat, and I shouldn't eat these. And I should go get the apple because the apple will make me healthy and keep the doctor away and make me not sick and stuff like that. If you have to do that every single time that you go to the grocery store and grab the honey buns, you might do it the first couple weeks, you might do it 4 weeks, but naturally those old patterns is going to set in, and that's why most people don't do their New Year's resolutions or accomplish their goals that they set out. But instead, let's just say that you make it a daily practice, multiple times a day, to go into these beliefs that's not serving you. Let's say we only have 3 main categories of life. What beliefs are not serving you in regards to wealth? What beliefs are not serving you in regards to health? What beliefs are not serving you in regards of relationships? And my man just put me on yesterday saying that another category that I talk about a lot, and that should be one of my pillars, is God, which I believe, but I believe God is like the pillar for them all. But I like separating the two because makes people think about that side. So we're gonna go with it. What are the beliefs that's holding you back from having a great experience with God? You then can go in and say, I believe this about money. I believe this about myself in regards to money. I believe this about how money works and how I make money. I believe this about love and attracting great relationships in my life. I'm not worthy. I'm not deserving. I can't have it. I'm not good enough. These are some of the beliefs that we have habitually, that we've been programmed with as a youth, that are more in alignment with our old identity, with the person who we were before, that aren't serving us. The problem is we have those unconscious neural pathways built up so strong that the decision just becomes automatic. I'm not worthy of being healthy, so therefore, what's the point of grabbing the fruit? But when you start to value yourself, when you start to understand that you are worth it, that you are deserving of all the great things in life, and you start to reprogram those beliefs consciously, intentionally, every single day, you get into a meditative state, and then you go into the brain and you start to tell yourself, I'm worthy of this, I'm deserving of this is what I should have based on this. And you start to go into that state every day and put yourself in the feeling state of what it would feel like if that was true. What it would feel like if I was worthy of love. What would it feel like if I was good enough to be myself and make money from doing it? What would it feel like if what I said really was impacting people? What would it be like if I really was healthy and had abundant energy? How would that feel? And then you get yourself in that state every day and you focus on those beliefs. Now you start to form new neural pathways in the brain. You start to create new habits of thinking, new habits of habitual just thoughts that come to the brain, right? And feelings. And how you think and how you feel is going to dictate what you do. And then you start to associate that pleasure, that good feeling, going back to the point before, pain and pleasure, you start to associate that pleasure with those thoughts that you're focusing on at the time. I am worthy. I get pleasure from being worthy. Right now, a lot of us, we get pleasure from being not worthy because we get sympathy. We get people that make us, we give sympathy to people that feel bad about themselves, but we don't give thanks, or we don't give honor, or we don't encourage people that feel good about themselves. We don't encourage the confident people. We call them arrogant, stuff like that. But that's just societal programming, and that's for a different video. But what you could do to sum up this video is, why do we continuously backslide? Why do we continue to go back into the old identity? It's because we have neural pathways built up that seek pain from becoming better and improving ourselves, because it's new and uncomfortable and it's uncertain. And we seek pleasure from the things that we've always done in our life, because those are the things that's normal. Those are the things that are comfortable. Those are the things that are just the same. So all we have to do is look at the results that we're getting in our life, ask ourselves, is this the result I want in my wealth? Is this the result I want in my health? Is this the result I want in my relationships? Is this the way I want to believe about God and believe how God works in my life? And we say, no, these are not the ways I want to believe. What's holding me back from believing the right thing of what I believe, that love is easy, love comes to me in abundance, wealth is easy, wealth comes to me in abundance, health is easy, I'll stay healthy? What's holding me back from having that belief? Realizing that that's just what you're comfortable with, believing something like that, and the only pain or uncomfortability we get from changing that is just because it's new. So recognize that any new belief is going to be uncomfortable, but you still have to just persist in the belief, going into your brain, changing it on a daily basis to start to believe new things. Those new things will produce new thoughts, new feelings, new actions. New actions will present a whole different quality of life. And if you do this correctly, you can literally change the trajectory of your life, your family's life, your community's life, the world's life, just by putting empowering things in your head that produce different thoughts and feelings, which are going to produce different actions. Our brain is a supercomputer. Use it to your advantage. It's a heat-seeking missile for what's familiar. So we just have to get familiar with things that are great, things that are abundant, things that are excellent. things that produce more joy and fulfillment and happiness in our life, and become familiar with negativity, unfamiliar with hate, unfamiliar with evil, unfamiliar with things that bring us down in life, and thus attracting more of those things in our life, positive or negative. So recognize what you're putting into the brain and reprogram it, and recognize that uncomfortable feelings probably gonna come up, but that's just because you're used to the old stuff. Change the story, change your feelings, change your life. Catch you in the next one. Peace.